Hey guys, and welcome back to A&J Education YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing what is anthropology as a subject, why you might want to consider it, and how to prepare yourself to make a strong application. So if you're considering anthropology, or you're not sure what you want to study, and you're potentially interested in anthropology, keep watching. All right, guys, so today we're very fortunate to be joined by my colleague Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for joining us. So, guys, just to give a bit of background on Peter, Peter's completed his undergraduate at Bristol in anthropology, and is now doing masters at Oxford, MSc in anthropology, right?
Yeah.
So, Peter, what is anthropology? Because actually, I myself, I'm not fully sure what anthropology covers.
Sure, yeah. So anthropology is a very, very broad discipline. Yeah, so there are 4 fields of anthropology. There's linguistic, biological, social, and archaeological. And so within that, you often have the anthropologists will go and study for 2 years. They'll do fieldwork, and that's called ethnography. And they'll study a particular group of people. And then after that they'll write up their thesis about it. And it's also the study of peoples for past and present. So very, very broad topic.
This can be literally anything.
Yeah. So literally like how people interact with the world and other people. It does have quite sort of, it's rooted in colonial history. So it started with, sort of middle-aged white men going off and essentially studying cultures and the sort of the exotic other to work out how best to colonize them. But since then, I think the discipline has become, like, it's really moved on a lot, and it's become a lot more compassionate in that sense. Particularly, a lot of the critical studies are, they often have an agenda of social justice, and so it's quite a progressive study, I would say.
Interesting, and it appears quite niche because you don't hear of many people going into anthropology.
I had no idea it existed until I sort of scrolled through the Bristol undergraduate choices, and I often joke that it was because it's the first subject that came up on the A to Z, so I just went for that. It was easier. Yeah.
Nice. But how does someone? So if I'm, let's say, a typical student at a school, you don't do anthropology as a subject at the school. So how can you prepare yourself and to become a stronger candidate? Like, what would you even do to write a good, to have a good CV for anthropology, to have a good application?
To be honest, it's quite, because the subject is super, super broad, you can come at it from quite a few different angles. I actually had, in my past, I was doing quite a lot of music, and so I wasn't doing necessarily too many humanities. I studied English and music and geography as well. But I think as long as you can show that you've thought about the topic. So, for example, I showed that I had some interest about what I wanted to research once I got to university. And that was sort of broadly around meditation and like the therapeutic benefits of like alternative therapies, what we'd call alternative therapies in the UK. So you can be sort of really show your interest, and I think particularly at undergrad you don't have to have really almost have qualifications for those. You can be a bit more casual, I guess.
More casual. Cool. Interesting. And Peter, in terms of writing a personal statement specifically for anthropology, so would it make sense to maybe pick up a text and talk about it in the personal statement? And how does one justify, because it's very easy to justify want to become a doctor. I was helped by a doctor, always wanted to help people, but it's, I don't know, I would find it difficult to justify why I randomly want to do anthropology. So how do you put across that motivation for the subject piece in the application?
So I think a big part of the discipline is studying sort of cultural differences. So definitely if you've done reading around the subject already, I guess just having an awareness of what the subject actually is, and a willingness to kind of have empathy for I guess, difference, generally speaking. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, a bit, but not really actually. No. Sorry, maybe I just didn't get it. So, how, if you, let's say you're a typical, school pupil, like, how would you demonstrate an interest in, how different people interact with each other?
Yeah, definitely. How would you demonstrate an interest for how other people interact with each other? Yeah, definitely reading around the subject. So just like course specific things. So there's lots out there. I guess one thing that people are often drawn to is the sort of evolution of humans. Is like quite a common topic for people to get that interest sparked, because it's like this wonder of like how we came to be who we are. And anthropology is definitely, I wouldn't say centered, but it's definitely one aspect of anthropology. So and you can it's not something that you necessarily would study as much in A levels, that topic. So
interesting. No, so I guess talk about maybe how you came across the subject, find a book that you found interesting, and then sort of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think demonstrating that you've obviously read books, particularly for undergrad. If you've read books in areas of interest, then that's like instantly going to bump you up, because like you say, it's like not many people know about it. So even knowing about the discipline in the first place is like a good step, which sounds almost silly. Yeah.
And Peter, what can some people would say, well, anthropology, what can you even do with it? Apart from academia and teaching, what other jobs are there? So as an anthropologist, what can you end up doing?
So a lot of people from my undergrad that I know went into kind of media and promotion, that advertising. That's the whole sort of aspect of anthropology you can go into. There's also charity work, and obviously you can go into academia, working with NGOs, or even going into governance. I think generally, if you want to go into anything that's not a little bit more in the kind of media and marketing and advertising side, you're best to go into doing further study first, so like a master's or a PhD. Although that's totally not a blanket rule. You can definitely, it's really, I think, often just about how you seize the opportunities you get. And
Cool. Cool, great. Well, guys, if you weren't excited about anthropology before this video, you definitely are now. Certainly I am. So Peter, thank you so much for for giving this breakdown of the the subject. Just quickly, any tips, any resources that you recommend to people who know nothing about the subject but want to learn more? Any free maybe YouTube channels or books you can recommend?
Well, I'm sure it's quite a popular book, but the book *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari is like a very a lot of people know about it, but it's a super interesting book, and it is almost like a summary of quite sort of general anthropology, if you wanted to understand it broadly speaking. There's also a really lovely book called *Humankind* by Rutger Bregman, which kind of is in a similar vein, but just is like a really warm introduction to anthropology, I would say.
Cool, great. Well, Peter, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Sonny.
Guys, all the best in your applications and in your studies. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel because we release videos like this every week, and also check out my newsletter on university admissions, which you can find a link to subscribe to below. I share tips and tricks on admissions and cool information on really cool events that you can do online to beef up your resume. So check out those. But for now, thanks from us, and all the best to you.